can't feel the sun beating on my.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Ayla of Bouquet of Treasons, and today I just want to share with you guys about what falling apart means to me and why I wrote it. Um, and so, and it's kind of a heavy story for me, but for me, writing Falling Apart came about a time in my life when I was in a very heavy struggle, and there was just a huge tearing in my soul about choosing to make some very important decisions in life. And up to that point, um, I seemed to have most everything together, as a lot of folks would look at from the outside, and very put together. I was leading worship, I was doing missionary work, but inside I was still struggling with identity. Um, and before this, I was formerly David. And um, this whole time, like I could still smile and put on a good face, but secretly on the inside, I was struggling and was really wrestling with this identity that didn't seem to go away, and it had been there ever since I was a little kid. As early as I can remember, I used to have dreams where I'd be in the right body, and then I would wake up and I would feel incredibly sad and upset because I would wake up and I was in um, the body that I was born in, and it didn't seem to match up in my mind, and it was very distressing for me. Finally, just after all the years of holding that in and holding the shame, um, it it imploded. I just kind of everything started breaking down and started getting really depressed, and I ended up to the point where I was hurting myself and ended up in the behavioral health institution. Um, and it was there that I was honest for the first time um, with my wife at the time and with everyone about what I was struggling with, and that inside I knew that I was a woman and I'm trapped inside the wrong body, and hopefully that I'd be honest about it and that it would just go away. Well, after a year, it didn't go away. In fact, it was just growing stronger. And I had talked to some friends about it. I had been through counseling, Christian counseling. Um, I had gotten taken medications, and nothing was taking this away. And I was still struggling with the thoughts of harming myself. And I knew that something had to give. Well, Uh, and finally, I ended up in my divorce, and divorced with my ex there, and something that was very heartbreaking for the entire family. I have four beautiful boys who are just the world to me, and every single step of the way is I'm constantly thinking about them and how they're doing with things, and just I don't know. They're my kids. I love them more than anything. So all of this was really a big challenge to go and be making these choices that would really affect them in a heavy way through the divorce, and then also after the divorce when I was starting to explore, is this a real possibility that um, this really is for me, is to transition and to live as the woman I feel like on the inside. So New Year's Day, I dressed up and I was expecting just that. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. It's I'm gonna look in the mirror and it's gonna be hideous and I'm just gonna be done with it. And it didn't happen like that at all. It was actually very liberating to just look in the mirror and like finally feel closer to myself than I had ever been before. And so I kept on practicing doing my makeup, dressing up, got some wigs, just explored, even very, yeah, I was very scared, but I went out into the world. I opened the door and I walked out into the light of day, and or it was night for the first time I walked out as me. And it was scary at first, but I had never felt more free and just happy with being who I was. And all of a sudden, like the self harm thoughts were just disappearing, because all of a sudden I was finding a new appreciation for who I am, finding a new appreciation for my body, and just being thankful to be alive. And that was just groundbreaking for me. Um, so I just stewed on that and I pondered it. And it was a few months later when I was like, wow, I am absolutely 100% positive that this is what I want. And at the same time, while being really excited about that and thinking about how freeing that would be, I also felt um, very trapped in that choice to live and experience my own freedom was going to mean a lot of earth shaking for those around who I love, namely the church and my boys. Um, my boys, I was just so afraid how this might shatter them, how this might shatter theirs in my relationship. And I stewed on it and I stewed on it. And having had faith in my life and just really believing on God for so much, I still wanted to maintain that connection too with him, that I really do feel like he's taken me through so much. And he's just been there every step of the journey. And I don't feel like he's left me. And at first, that was one of the big questions too. But would God still love me, or does He hate me? For doing this and you know going this route with my body and my life. And I've really tried to maintain that connection with faith and just being honest with who I am. But I really prayed just that, especially my boys and I would be able to maintain a solid connection, and that they would be able to adjust, and that I'd be able to adjust, and just that we'd be okay. And it's been a really tough road, and we didn't tell them right away. But when we did let them know, it was really, it had shaken them really bad, and they were scared and frightened and shocked. And um, it was traumatizing for them to first find out. And I'm sure it still is at times and stuff. We're now, about 3 years into it, 2.5 years since they first found out. And um, while the shock part is over, and while we are maintaining, I would say, an awesome connection and still having fun together and still loving life together, it still is definitely very difficult. It's difficult for me to understand the pain they're going through. And I'm sure it's difficult for them to understand the pain I'm going through. And, we just keep on taking it step by step and just talking and sharing life together. Um, but that was a huge thing that was ripping my soul. It's like, is God gonna hate me? Are my kids gonna hate me? Is life gonna crumble? And all these things were just tearing at my soul, and I really felt like I was just falling apart. And I was just, my heart, my body just couldn't take it. And so I was sitting on this, was starting to write this song. I didn't know it would become falling apart. I just knew that I had these chords that I had been holding and learning to play my own chords. Like I found these beautiful chords in this other tuning I loved, and it took me a while just to get the right coordination to be able to proficiently play and switch to the chords that I really liked that were joined together. And I was finally able to do that proficiently, and just started playing that song on the guitar. And I was in this spot of being torn where I was falling apart, and I just started speaking. It's like I'm falling apart. Um, and you just feel like my soul is just aching and burning and just yearning for freedom and yearning for just some answers to this, all these questions and stuff of these things that seem to be a complete at odd ends with each other. How could I be this Christian transgender parent of four boys living as a woman, and how could all these things like come together and actually work? How was I going to do this and find this freedom that was actually available to me? And so that's how I started writing that song. And if it's just like I wanted to be able to feel like a warrior again, I feel like I was just beginning to crumble, and I wanted to keep that fight in me for life and to just be able to rip off all fear and just be able to lay hold of all these um, all the things that are in store for me, and just have a bright future. And so this song really is about that. It's about falling apart and falling to pieces, which is actually what I really needed in order to discover who I am and to find peace with who I am, peace with what God thinks of me and how He feels about me, and also just to find peace in my relationship with my kids and just see love for each other just grow and define this family dynamic where we are completely imperfect people who are still learning things together, but we have that common bond of being family, that we have God in our life showing us love the whole way, and just learning how to show each other unconditional love. And it's taught me so much about myself. They've taught me so much about themselves and just how wonderful their hearts are. Now here, finally figuring things out and doing the day-to-day life, throwing footballs and going on walks, riding bikes, wrestling, tickling each other, having sword fights. Yeah, it's just we're having fun with life still, and it's really cool to see that um, all these things are working forth. That there are some answers, and that God loves me. He loves my kids. And He won't let us go. So that's a little bit of the background behind this song, Falling Apart. And I really just hope that this song can touch other people's lives too, who know that struggle of that ripping of their soul, and just that yearning for freedom, that yearning for purpose, that yearning for things to just work. And I pray that everyone would be encouraged who listens to the song, that you glean something, if not just to find that there's somebody out there who understands the struggle, and just finding identity in who we are as people. And I love you guys so much, and I'm so happy to give this song to you guys. So be blessed and enjoy my song, Falling Apart by Bouquet of Trees. Love you.
Falling apart. There's gotta be an answer burning inside. My bones are counting ash. Don't know who I am.